Alright guys, now this is absolutely crazy. XRP at 50 cents, right? Decoupled basically from Bitcoin. As we've seen, the crazy pumps take place so far. Now, I wanted to talk about a few things, guys. About why we could be pumping, right? It's mysterious, very mysterious on why this is happening right now. So, I was watching Wuson's recent video, and basically he did say something thought-provoking, right? And I thought about it. I'm going to paraphrase right here, but he stated something basically like, what if the XRP pump was not due to what settlement taking place or the case going to conclude soon, but what if the case was the decoy tactic, but instead the reason why I pumped was perhaps because of there will be a few CBDC announcements soon, right? We talked about this, how I'm pretty sure one of the Ripple people did state that there's going to be more CBDC announcements soon, if I'm not mistaken, guys. So maybe some quote-unquote insiders know what's upcoming, basically, right? And he wanted in before the price took off even higher and higher and higher. And maybe the case concludes later on, guys. Perhaps December to January, right? End of 2022 / beginning of 2023. Now, the real question to me is the bottom in? Right? Have we seen the bottom or no? So, let's talk about it, guys. Now, I'm not going to get too in-depth about my thread that I did tweet out. If you go back to my timeline right here, I was very excited at June, right? Very excited, guys. July, just bought some XRP at around 31 cents. If and only if we go lower in price, I start buying more, starting to DCA in, right? And I think I bought twice, guys. One at 31 cents and then another at 33 cents, if I'm not mistaken. So, I was buying. I was extremely bullish. Why? Because I had a feeling the bottom was in, guys, at that point in time, right? Why don't you wait around 13 cents? Now, a lot of people were bearish, right? And that made me extremely bullish. As you guys can see, June. Who else feels excited for XRP to go up and never stop, right? Now, XRP I'm holding, I'm not selling, right? Many distractions. I mean, you guys can see right here, guys, literally right here. XRP decoupling from Bitcoin soon. When it happens, it will disintegrate all Disbelievers' faces, right? Look at that, guys. June 24, right? The XRP Bitcoin pairing. Now, if you go back here, though, again, a lot of tweets, guys. A lot of tweets, right? I was extremely bullish, guys, on XRP. Look at this. XRP, if the media didn't tell you to sell the top, why would they tell you to buy the bottom? Exactly, right? XRP exciting times ahead. Exactly. This is why I was bullish right here, guys. It's because nobody was telling you to buy at those prices, right? Around these prices right here. No one was stating it, guys. Right? Everyone was feeling very scared. Now, if you go down here, so this is the thread I'm talking about. June 17th, by the way. Right? The sequence of events. Now, guys, I'm not going to be talking too much about it, but I want to state it. I want to state this right here. Are they your friends looking to help you? As I recall, usually the opposite happens. Why? Because everyone was calling for more down prices, right? Then, this is what I meant right here. Crypto / stocks bottom out in the month of Soul. June 18th to July 15th, right? Or it could obviously be crypto itself right there. Or shall we say XRP to be more specific. Obviously states that, but we cannot literally predict every single thing, guys. Look at that. When did XRP quote-unquote bottom out? June 18th right there on the dot, guys. Or so far it has, right? Because we did pump. But we still have to be patient, guys. I'm not saying we extremely or we 100% did bottom out. Why? Because there could be a few black swans up on the horizon, right? So we got to prepare. The reason why I turned a little bearish was because I thought more about the black swans taking place, right? But that's unpredictable, guys. You cannot predict it, right? And that's why it's called a black swan. But besides that news, guys, I'm going to be talking more about my thread on another video later soon, more in depth about what I think will take place. But remember, this autumn time frame will confirm to us what will happen, right? What will take place at the end of the day. Now, listen to this from 801 XRP. Brad Garlinghouse Crypto World interview September 23rd, 2022 talks all about Ripple case, Ripple's future, right? So, great interview. basically, let's listen to this, guys. I'm going to probably play half the video, and then you guys can watch the rest, but listen to this. It's very interesting.
So you've been in a very high-profile legal battle with the SEC for almost 2 years. Both sides have now asked a federal judge to make a call on whether XRP is indeed a security that falls under the purview of the SEC. My question to you is, why now, and why are you foregoing the right to go through a trial and present more evidence? Why are you so sure that everything is already out there?
So trials are really reserved for like when there's a question of fact, and so juries and judges are like, what are the actual facts? In this case, the facts are pretty clear. The question is about the law, and we think the law is clear, and the law requires, and the statute as written by Congress, the law requires that there's an investment contract. That's step one. Before you even get to the Howey test, which is often talked about, you have to have a contract between two parties. We don't even think we get past that step, because an investment contract, if you don't have an investment contract, you certainly don't have a security because there's no agreement, period. If you get to the Howey test, then it's also a question of law. So we think this step of summary judgment is, first of all, the fastest path to resolution. We have been pushing very hard to move this quickly, partly because we think the law is clear, and partly because we think the whole industry needs the clarity we're seeking.
Yeah, and I definitely want to come back to the broader implications for the crypto industry. But on that point of an investment contract, you know, the SEC has made the case in its motion that that there can be an investment contract without a contract, any rights granted to the purchaser and without any obligations to the issuer. What do you say to that?
In order to have a contract, you have two parties. No matter how the SEC wants to spin the facts, the reality is to have a contract, you have two parties have to agree on something. You don't necessarily have it written. You can have oral contracts, you can have implicit contracts, but you have to have two parties. The reality is there are not two parties. Ripple doesn't know who bought the XRP. The people who bought the XRP don't necessarily know Ripple. You have to remember that 99.9% of XRP trading has nothing to do with Ripple, the company. So when you talk about, okay, XRP is a security, I go back to something I said years ago when this started. A security of what company? Of what, like, who is the owner? So I think it's very clear there is no investment contract. If you get past the investment contract, which I think is hard, across the Howey test, you also don't have, you have to meet all three prongs. And in the case of the XRP case, you can't meet all three prongs for sure. And so we think that the judge will see that the law is very clear. We think the facts are very clear. And we think this is just a gross overreach of the SEC trying to wrest control of that uncertainty that has existed. And really the unfortunate thing is the SEC and really the US government hasn't taken this step to provide that clarity that a lot of other countries around the world have.
I mean, for years you've spoken about the fact that that lack of regulatory clarity in the U.S. Stands in stark comparison to Switzerland or Singapore. And so we have made steps since you first made that comment. The White House on Friday released a new framework for crypto regulation. But again, it's not hard and fast rules. Like, they're like competing bills on Capitol Hill, but nothing has been passed yet. So, I mean, do you still feel that there is just a very amorphous space in terms of regulatory clarity in the U.S.?
I do, and you know, I think that the vast majority of people I know in the crypto industry, they want to follow the rules of the road, but we need to provide clarity on what the rules of the road are here in the United States. Ripple, frankly, will hire north of 300 people this year, and we'll do more of that outside the United States, and our growth is 95% from customers outside the United States, and it's partly because the rules of the road are clear in those countries. Way back when I first got involved with technology in the late 90s, the government took the step to clarify what are the rules of the road for the internet. And all kinds of capital flowed in, all kinds of entrepreneurs flowed in, and we saw an amazing explosion of activity and innovation, and that's amazing. And frankly, the US has benefited massively on a geopolitical basis from that. We haven't done that work here, and instead, particularly the SEC, is trying to regulate through enforcement.
Yeah.
That's a super inefficient way to do this, as opposed to let's do the work, let's provide the clarity. And I think the executive order is an example of taking that step. And I think that, as you mentioned, the bills pending and that have been introduced, we'll see where they go, one in the House, one in the Senate, I think are positive steps in that direction.
I mean, that buzz phrase of regulation by enforcement is something that a lot of people have been talking about with respect to the SEC stepping in and making rules just by virtue of retroactively holding people accountable for things that they didn't realize were a mistake in the first place or were an issue in the first place. So a lot of people are looking to this lawsuit between Ripple and SEC as a moment of setting precedent for the wider industry. Walk us through what that looks like based off of like the hypotheticals of either of how the judge rules.
Well, so I do think, as you say, I think it's a pretty bellwether case at this point. And we talked about, the Howey test is this Orange Grove Supreme Court case from the 40s. I think that the Ripple test may be what we look at in the future. And there are a lot of facts and circumstances that can be unique. But for Ripple and what the SEC is trying to do, I do think it's just the SEC trying to overreach the statute. And again, Congress gives the SEC power. The SEC can't just go take power. Congress has to pass laws that say, here's the framework. And in this case, what we're really talking about is the 1933 Securities Act, which created the SEC, which said if there's an investment contract, later on the Howey test. Look, we are very confident, as evidenced by the fact that we filed summary judgment. We think, again, the facts are clear. We think the law is on our side, so we want to get to that resolution. But I do think it's important for the whole industry, because if the SEC is going to be the regulator of all crypto, and again, Gary Gensler, the current chairman of the SEC, has said he views virtually all crypto as a security. That's really going to change crypto in the United States, which is the largest economy in the world. I think we all should care that we're able to continue to innovate on these technologies and build solutions using these technologies that really can make the economy more efficient.
And so, looking at either side of how this ruling may turn out, I mean, if the judge rules with the SEC and deems XRP a security, what does that mean for the larger industry?
Well, I mean, for Ripple, I think for Ripple, we're already operating in a world. It's almost as if we have lost the lawsuit, simply because you don't have XRP trading here in the United States for all intents and purposes. Uphold is one exchange, still allows trading of XRP, but other than that, everyone else halted trading here in the US. So I think if we prevail, we'll now have more liquidity in the XRP ecosystem in the largest economy in the world. We think that's good for everybody. It also, I think, really sets a tone for other cases the SEC is pursuing now. And they've been quite aggressive, as I think has been kind of well reported in their kind of overreach, and some of the letters that have gone out that even congressional leaders have reached out to the SEC asking for explanation. If it doesn't go Ripple's way, I think Ripple can continue to grow our business. It'll just be largely a non-US business, which would be unfortunate. And I think it would give the SEC more standing to be more aggressive in other cases.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about Ripple's future if it does fall that way. But before we do, in terms of industry-wide precedent that might be set, so far the SEC has really only partitioned off Bitcoin and perhaps Ether as falling under the purview of the CFTC. You this week met with Caroline Pham, who's one of the commissioners of the CFTC. What did you guys talk about?
Well, I think Commissioner Pham's learning. I think she's very bright, still, relatively new to her position, and I think trying to learn. And I think she has spoken out about the need for the clarity that we have been seeking. And so, even what you're describing, the SEC Chair Gensler has said he won't comment on specific projects. He does comment on Bitcoin, which is a specific project. When asked directly about ETH, despite the previous administration, they viewed ETH to have been a security, then transitioned to a non-security. You now have the SEC making noises that perhaps ETH is indeed a security, and even in a recent legal filing not related to Ripple, they made the assertion that because most ETH nodes are based geographically in the United States, that they have jurisdiction to regulate ETH. So look, I do think at the core we have to go back to what is the law? What is the statute that Congress wrote to give the SEC power? And in this case, I think the SEC has greatly overstepped, and not just in this case, but what we're seeing with ETH. Gary Gensler also likes to say that the rules are clear, but then you ask him, well, is ETH a security? He won't answer. Well, if they're that clear, let's provide the clarity that everyone's seeking. And I think it's just been really kind of frustrating and disingenuous.
Now,
there we go, guys. So, wow, again, it seems like Ripple's fighting for what? The whole industry once again, guys, but people don't understand that, right? But what did Brad Garlinghouse say right there? Quote, "We are very confident," right? End quote. Again, they are extremely confident, guys. How don't people see that this case probably concludes maximum Q1 of 2023, right? So again, guys, there are a few things up on the horizon to look forward to. So let's just be prepared and see what takes place at the end of the day. Not financial advice. But anyways, that's all for you guys. Enjoyed today's video. If you guys, please like, subscribe, amazing. See ya.